Hey, so I get asked by a lot of new recruiters, how do I do a call with a candidate? How do I do a screening call? How do I do an interview with them? I'm nervous. I don't know what to ask. I don't know how to build rapport with them. How do I explain the job? So I'm going to do a live call with a candidate for a role that we have, but just to show you the screens that I will have up for this candidate is number one, I've got the information on my client. So my client is Doctus Tech and they're looking for a BDR. I send this information to the candidate as well. So I've got the company overview, I've got links to the website, I have information on Glassdoor for them, what they do. I've also got the job description that's in here, and I've got some important links that explain the company's product and all of this information I would expect the candidate to take a look at, hopefully before we meet, but obviously before an interview. The other thing that I have up is I have the candidate's resume up. So I can obviously see what they've done, what they've accomplished, and that's going to guide me in asking my questions. I always prep a few questions prior to the call as well, because there's some specifics that this client is going to want to know, primarily about business development activities, sales background, so on and so forth. The other piece of information that I always have up is I have the candidate's profile up. So I can see how many contacts they have, any posts that they're liking or following, and just very quickly be able to navigate and look through the jobs that they've worked at. So we'll pivot and I'll do a live call. All right, so I am going to do a live candidate interview for a role that I have for an entry level salesperson. And the reason why I'm doing this is to help young recruiters, young sourcers, or people who get nervous about interviews so you can hear the way that I conduct myself and how I explain a company. Hey, Caleb, this is Jordana calling you from Higher Equity Recruitment Agency. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hey, Jordana.
Do you still have a few minutes to chat now?
Yeah, totally. This is a great time.
Okay, fantastic. I know we only have 15 minutes together, so I will try not to go over time. If I do need to go over time, I'll send you a new booking link or I might send you some questions via email. Does that work?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay,
that works well.
got it. The way I'm going to conduct this call is I'm going to give you some information about the company and also give you some information about the role. I'll be transparent on compensation, and then you can ask me any questions that you might have. And from there, I'll ask you a few questions. Does that work?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, fantastic. Caleb, one question for you off the top. I am recording this call for educational purposes. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay, thank you very much. Caleb, the first question I have for you, just to be clear, is I looked at your entrepreneur in residence opportunity, Harvest Venture Partners. Is that where you're currently at?
No, that's actually, I finished that term in November of last year. I'm sorry, no, July of last year.
Got it. Understood. Okay, so right now, then, are you with Ever?
Yeah, well, so what I did was I did a freelance term with Ever, and that was for about a couple, like 2 months, and then, or 3 months actually, it was 3 months long, and then I left Ever a couple months ago in February, and then ever since I've been on the look for another opportunity as well.
Okay, got it. It was freelance contract work with them?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. I sent you some information on the client a few minutes ago, so feel free to take a look at it when we get off the call. It's got some links that you can check out as well as the job description, and you can head over to the website and see a little bit more about what they do. But essentially, the company is called Doctus Tech. They were co-founded by two doctors, one in the US and one in Canada. And the concept started approximately 8 years ago with them wanting to do business together and trying to figure out a solution that they could solve for in the healthcare market. And in 2020, they launched their app, the Doctus Tech app, and started to hire salespeople in 2022. And now they're at the point where they need another BDR to add to their team of three. So, a little bit about what they do. What you'll see is they are a healthcare technology company, and they have an app that is focused on something called HCC coding. So, if you're unfamiliar with healthcare in the US market, unlike Canada, there is no subsidization unless you work for a company and you have a benefits package with them and coverage. Otherwise, you're paying out of pocket. So the HCC coding stands for hierarchical condition coding. And the platform that they have developed is proprietary. And it is an easy way for physicians and physician groups and healthcare groups to look up codes that would coincide with different, I would say, diagnoses, or they would be, perhaps different medications or treatments that would need to be done, so that that provides the healthcare providers with the ability to very quickly quote their patients, so their patients can see, this is how much this would cost. And so for them, it is reducing the operational efficiency time and the administrative time, and it's increasing customer satisfaction. So what they are looking for is an individual that can help them with inbound as well as outbound leads. And I would say you're primarily going to be on the outbound side here. It'd be about 80-20. So you would be getting some leads from clinical groups that are curious about the solution that you would be following up on via email and via telephone, asking them some discovery call questions in terms of what they're currently doing. You'll also be asking them if they have a budget, if they're the right person to be speaking to, what the need is, what the timeline is. And then you'll be booking a call for another individual to be able to do the presentation and the demo. So your job essentially ends when that meeting gets booked for that other individual. The flip side of what you'll be doing is you will be doing some outbound calls and some outbound email communication to these different clinical groups and physicians to try and get them excited and aware of the Doctus Tech app, and then get them into meetings following a very similar process in terms of asking them questions and qualifying them and getting them into those meetings. So the company is just under 30 people. Most of their sales staff is located in Canada. It is a completely remote role. So they will spend their first few weeks training you on what the industry looks like, especially when it comes to US healthcare, the different systems, processes, tools that they use. They're also going to have you shadow some of the other staff members so you can listen to their calls and see how they present the solution and the questions that they ask. And then once you become familiar and comfortable, they'll start to have you doing the reach outs yourself via email and via phone calls. It's highly likely, Caleb, that within the first few months, if you start to pick things up and are seeing success, that you'll move into doing some presentations and demos of some small clinics on your own. Right now, there is another BDR that's in place. Is also another sales individual who was brought on in mid 2022, who's taking on some more of that demo work. So the way that you would be compensated is a base salary that is dependent upon the experience that you have. So meaning, if you're coming to the table with very little prospecting, business to business, cold calling, outreach experience, you'd probably be closer to the $50,000 range. You might have some negotiation room dependent upon your skill set, which I'll take a look at here. But also, you would be commissioned. And so you're looking at anywhere from about 6 to 10 appointments, booked appointments that you would be expected to do per month. And it's a dollar amount figure per appointment booked. And what triggers that payment to you is the person shows up and they are a qualified individual to that appointment. And so that's paid on a monthly basis. I'm going to pause there for just a second and just see what questions you might have about the role or about the company.
Yeah, of course. I was looking through the description myself actually just now as you were kind of speaking through. How much, how much experience when you say like, when you say so the job description is like 2 years of experience in a BDR role, and you say like if you have less experience with prospecting in general, like what's kind of like the leeway there in terms of experience? Because to be honest, from my end, I think I
No, I totally get it. And
Yeah.
interestingly enough, so the team at Doctus Tech, the leadership team, what they're looking for is a blend of experience and attitude, skill, personality. And so let me explain that a
Okay.
little bit further. Ideally for them, they're able to meet with someone who has exposure to sales. So, meaning you've communicated the value of a solution or a product before to either directly to a customer or a consumer or to a business, so you understand that conversation. Number two would be if you have experience in doing outbound dialing or in following up with leads, that would be ideal as well. So you get accustomed to that resilience and that rejection of someone possibly saying, nah, I'm not interested, or, you know what, I could be interested. I don't know. Tell me a little bit more. Or, no, go away. That kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
on the flip side of things, they're really looking for someone who is quite curious about the industry and wants to learn more about the solution that they've developed and has an interest in learning more about the medical industry. And I would say has the confidence and the willingness to speak to clinicians. That would be number one. Number two, what's really important to them is feedback and the ability for you to take that feedback and enact on it. So they know that you're not going to come in with the experience that you have in your career and know exactly what to do off the bat. So as they're coaching you and they're training you on how to do cold calls and how to prospect and what different scripts look like, they would be looking for you to be taking that feedback and then turning that into action. And so as long as they're seeing that happen, that's a good sign, Caleb.
Yeah.
The other thing that they're looking for is someone who can think on the fly. So even though you're going to have these scripts and these processes and you're going to get used to them, these prospects are going to throw a curveball at you. They're going to ask you a question that you're not aware of, or they're going to give you some information that you potentially need to be listening to, because they could be describing a pain point or they could be describing to you a reason why they actually could want their product. So you need to be flexible enough to have those great listening skills and those great research skills, to be able to follow up and follow that client's lead rather than follow an on script. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Just wanted to understand more about like who or what they're exactly looking for, but that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So I would say, Caleb, I understand what you're saying in terms of, hey, Jordana, why did you reach out to me? Like, I don't have, outbound cold calling experience. And I totally understand that. But one of the interesting components of your experience to the leadership team is you've got some entrepreneurial experience here. I think that would be number one. I think the second piece is you're new in your career. And what I mean by that is, I likely are wanting to learn and develop different skill sets in sales and marketing. And
Yeah.
so, you've got this great background, from University of Ottawa that I can see. And the thought would be that you have a desire to grow and learn, and in an environment that is a scaling startup. So you can be flexible, you can be agile, you can wear different hats, you can learn about sales, you can learn about marketing, you can learn about copywriting. And that's what's going to be really important in this role. So that's why I reached out to you.
Awesome. I really appreciate that, Jordana. Um, is there anything else that you'd like to ask me? I think from my end, you covered like a lot of the bases and questions of what you have.
I do have a question. One of the most curious roles that I saw that you had was at Neo Financial. And so
Yeah.
it looks like about a 6 month role there as an account management intern. And
Yeah.
it looks like what you were doing there could be somewhat similar to some of the activities at Doctus Tech. I was wondering if you could just tell me a little more about that.